Part 4.
Kundan took his men and headed for the suspension bridge over the river, while the others, guided by Nandu and Chotu, went to the spot where the tiger had seized the buffalo. The tiger was still eating when he heard the men coming. He had not expected to be disturbed so soon. With an energy whoop, he bounded into the jungle and watched the men. There were some 20 of them, through a screen of leaves and tall grass. The men carried hand drums slung from their shoulders, and some carried sticks and spears. After a hurried consultation, they strung out in a line and entered the jungle, beating their drums. The tiger did not like the noise. He went deeper into the jungle, but the men came after him, banging away on their drums and shouting at the top of their voices. They advanced singly or in pairs, but now here were they more than 15 yards apart. The tiger could easily have broken through this slowly advancing semicircle of men. One swift blow from his paw would have felled the strongest of them, but his main object was to get away from the noise. He hated and feared the noise made by humans. He was not a man-eater, and he would not attack a man unless he was very angry or very frightened, and as yet he was neither. He had eaten well, and he would have liked to rest, but there would be no rest for him until the men ceased their tremendous clutter, and then Nandu and Chotu kept close to their elders, knowing it wouldn't be safe to go back on their own. Chotu felt sorry for the tiger. Do they have to kill tiger? He asked. If they drive him across the river, he wouldn't come back, will he? Who knows, said Nandu. He has found it's easy to kill our buffaloes, and when he's angry, he will come again. We have to live too. Chotu was silent. He could see no way out for the tiger. For an hour, the villagers beat the jungle, shouting, drumming, and trampling the undergrowth. The tiger had no rest. Whenever he was able to put some distance between himself and the man, he would sink down in some shady spot to rest. But within a few minutes, the tramping and drumming would come nearer, and with an angry snarl he would get up again and pad northwards, along the narrowing strip of jungle towards the bridge across the river. It was about noon when the tiger finally came into the open. The boys had a clear view of him as he moved slowly along, now in the open, with the sun glinting on his glossy side, now in the shade or passing through the shorter grass. He was still out of range of Kundan Singh's gun, but there was no way in which he could retreat. He disappearing among some bushes, but soon reappeared to retreat his steps. The beaters had done their work well. The tiger was now only about 150 yards from the place where Kundan Singh waited. The beat had closed in. The men were now bunched together. They were making a great noise, but nothing moved. Chotu, watching from a distance, wondered, has he slipped through the bitters? And in his heart he hoped so. Tins clars, drums beat, and some of the men poked into the reeds along the river bank with their spears or bamboo sticks. Perhaps one of these thrust found its mark, because at last the tiger was roused and with an energy disappeared. General he charged out of the reeds, spacing his way through an inlet of mud and water. Kundan Singh fired and missed. The tiger rushed forward, making straight for the only way across the river, the suspension bridge that crossed it, providing a route into the hills beyond. The suspension bridge swayed and trembled as the big tiger lurched across it. Kundan fired again, and this time the bullet grazed the tiger's shoulder. The tiger bounded forward, lost his footing on the unfamiliar, slippery planks of the swing bridge, and went over the side, falling headlong into the boiling water of the river. He rose to the surface once, but current took him under and away, and before long he was lost to view. At first the villagers were glad. They felt their buffaloes were safe, began to feel that something had gone out of their lives, out of this life of the forest. The forest had been shrinking year by year as more people had moved into the area, but as long as the tiger had been there and they had heard him roar at night, they had known there was still some distance between them and ever spreading towns and cities. Now that the tiger had gone, it was as though a protector had gone. The boys lay flat on their stomachs on their little mud island and watched the monsoon clouds gathering overhead. The king of the jungle is dead, said Nondu. There are no more tigers. There have to be tigers, said Chotu. Can there be an India without tigers? The river had carried the tiger many miles away from his old home, from the forest he had always known, and brought him ashore on the opposite bank of the river, on a strip of yellow sand. Here he lay in the sun, quite still, breathing slowly. Vultures gathered and waited at a distance, some of them perching on the branches of nearby tree. But the tiger was more drowned than hurt, and as the river water oozed out of his mouth and the warm sun made new life throb through his body, he stirred and stretched, and his glazed eyes came into the focus. Raising his head, he saw trees and tall grass. Slowly he heaved himself off the ground and moved at a crouch to where the tall grass waved in the afternoon breeze. Would he be hunted again and shot at? There was no smell of man. The tiger moved forward with gathered confidence. There was, however, another smell in the air, a smell that reached back to the time when he was young and fresh, full of vigor. A smell that he had almost forgotten but could never really forget, the smell of a tigress. He lifted his head and new life passed through his limbs. He gave a deep roar, a howl, and moved purposefully through the tall grass. And the roar came back to him, calling him, urging him forward, a roar that meant there would be more tigers in the land. That night, half asleep on his cot, Chotu heard the tigers roaring to each other across the river, and he recognized the roar of his own tiger. And from the vigor of its roar, he knew that it was alive and safe, and he was glad. Let there be tigers forever, he whispered into the darkness before he fell asleep.